this is a huge painting. And you know, I've decided, so many people go out and they paint these little bitty things. So, you know, it's like you're going on safari and you're shooting gophers and stuff. Well, I'm going to go for the big game. I'm going to paint large outside and just try to do it. These all started out as plein airs out in the field, and I finished them in the studio for my brain. And tonight I'm going to do a painting that was inspired by my backcountry trip to the Belly River in Glacier Park. And where's my picture? It's in here and in here. And that's what I'm about. I'm trying to get, you know, one of the reasons why I opened an art school, Glacier Academy, is to try to teach people how to paint this way, where you're not relying on photographs and being, you know, uber creative. So I have my palette here, and it's all ready to go. And if you want to just ask questions, interrupt, whatever. This is not a formal deal. This is sun-thickened linseed oil and some crud on the bottom. I don't even know. It's sun-thickened linseed oil with some turpentine. And that's all. I keep it simple because that way that nobody's going to fool with the formula. So, all right. So what I try to tell people, and the most important thing about painting and drawing and art is the gesture, the motion in the picture. And I find that photographs never supply that, and it has to be something that you observe from nature. So what I'm going to do is start right away. And I have this idea in my head, and I can sort of get some rhythms going here. Because so what I'm going to have, it's going to be a sort of a sunny day with a little bit of maybe some storm activity. It's kind of what I saw when I was out at the lake, and it's a beautiful place and very quiet and fantastic spot. But see, I'm thinking about motion all the time, motion, and I'll move around. And if you want, hi, Francie. Hi. And
to what extent have you visualized the finished painting?
Sorry?
To what extent have you visualized the finished painting?
Well, it's a complicated, or it's two things. It's sort of a simple abstract concept, and then it's the textures and profile of the mountain, which I sort of have memorized from a sketch. So, but then I can just change it along the way if I like it. You know, that's the whole point. It's not to be stuck. I mean, every day, if I were to do the same painting every day, my goal would be to have it look different. Because, I don't know, you know, today's a different day, and maybe I'm in a good mood or a bad mood, who knows? It's all, you know, that's the thing, you live for the moment, and you don't worry about anything except paying the rent. And, you know, that's only once a month, so. We just try to see if you're free. I mean, the whole point of studying and all this stuff is so that you can have freedom. And freedom to be spontaneous and in total control of what you want. And I was thinking the other day, I had to, I was talking about to my kids and telling them about the four-way test in Rotary. I used to be in Rotary and then I quit because it was too expensive. But the four-way test is I'm supposed to memorize it, and I don't. But I thought about making a two-way test. And, you know, for painting, there should be, at least in my philosophy, a two-way test. And that's, number one, is it true to nature? And number two, is it true to yourself? So I'm going to patent that. So anyway. All right, so I'm getting emotion. and the sweeping motion here, because the clouds are moving across the sky. And so I have my idea already started. And now I'm going to start with the landscape, just to get a little bit of the feeling of the mountain. And it's really the backside of the ptarmigan wall. And it's full of all kinds of, that's what I love about Glacier Park. It's the mountains are so cockeyed and interesting. They're not simple things that you can just paint, like simple shapes. They are complex and often sort of contradictory series of castles and you could say castles or ramparts, things like that. So I'm thinking about, there's a line in Lake Elizabeth, the back of the Ptarmigan Wall. This has this kind of big shoulder to it, and then there's this sort of point up here before it goes down into the lake. And then there's a continuation of that idea. And there's one bump, there's another bump, and then there's two bumps down here. And then Mount Wilbur is behind all this stuff. So, I'm getting my idea in here quickly. Trying to splash the other paintings on the wall. Any questions so far? Okay, and then the water. The water was this beautiful blue, and I put a little ultramarine blue with white, and a tiny bit of maybe viridian green. And see, what I like to do is I like to cover everything up as quickly as possible, because none of this, all this stuff on the palette is meaningless. It's like if you take a dictionary and you open it up, you just got a bunch of words. Well, what's the use if you don't have a sentence in your mind? So this is where it all comes. You start, you put your idea down, and if it works here, then it's okay over there. But don't waste too much time mixing. Just put it on, see the kind of world you're building, see if it's appropriate.
The size of your brush is interesting. It's not very large, really.
Well, I like to keep a round brush. This is a round bristle, and I often paint. Hi, how are you? I often paint with round bristles because I can sort of draw and cover at the same time. So I can throw in an edge, something very sharp, and I'm not. See, what I don't like about the flat brushes is they're too much like a shovel. And I paint a lot with my medium, so the medium, is doing the work for me. And I don't have to put an enormous amount of paint on here. And I know it's not a popular way to paint because a lot of people just want to get right into the palette knife painting and all that stuff. But you can't get atmosphere with that, at least I can. So I like the subtlety, I like working with thin and thick. Thick paint will come toward the end when everything is just coming together. And then you can start throwing in some impasto. But what I want to do is I want to work wet and wet, and not fill in a colored drawing. I want to be working in the wet and wet with the paint. So,
is it important to you to leave some of that tone down?
Oh, leave it out? Leave it underneath?
Some.
Well, I can, because it's coming through in certain areas. And as long as I cover it, I can cover it lightly, and I can get some of that beautiful color underneath. So that's a lot of fun to do that. That's another reason why I like to paint thin, because I have control over, certain effects that I'm after. So this is just beginning of the lay-in. And one of the things I wanted to do was I was going to have a group of trees here. I'm almost done, right? All right. So what I want to do is start throwing in my foreground, and I have no idea. Let's see, where's the good brush here? Oh, this one. I'll sort of this one's didn't get cleaned. I'll throw in some of this. So I'm getting some umbers now and some orange and some green. And some orange. See, it's just everything is wonderful. All the colors are fabulous. I use black. You know, it's like black. What is black? Well, what is brown? Brown is a color with the 3 primaries in it. So is black. Black has the 3 primaries in it too. And it's when you paint with gray though, gray has that equal balance of the primaries, whereas brown is balanced towards either yellow, red, or blue. So you could throw in, you could paint with black as a color. I know it's, a lot of people say they go to workshops and they're told never use black, and it's kind of weird to me because I can't imagine life without black. It's so amazing. So I'm just playing around. I've got some nice. This is where Lake Elizabeth had these wonderful rocks, and there were probably some geological reason why they're sitting there stacked on each other, and all that stuff. But I just enjoy. You come here and then you don't expect that. There was these Hockaday arrangements of rocks that were just sort of left there without any explanation. And they didn't even have one of those interpretive signs, which they have everywhere, telling us what we're supposed to think. I mean, that's really fun. I love this. I want to do one of those, a fake interpretive sign, and I want to sort of make total things up and see how long it stays there. It's like the things that occur to them about like what they want to write. I mean, it's not what I'm thinking when I'm there. All right, so I guess now is the time when I start. How much time do I have?
As long as you want.
Till the light runs out.
Till the light runs out. Okay. So, now, see, the thing is with this rock face, there was this beautiful, it's violet and beautiful grays and greens coming down. And then there was a slope where everything sort of just slid down. And that's where you start getting some of the detail in the profile.
And was that just a matter of adding a little black to that same
Yeah.
color you had underneath?
And black and purple make green. You see, so if you put the black and gray next to the purple, you'll get a very weak green because of the optical mixture. And so you don't have to actually put green in there. So let's see, now I remember there was another slope down here, and then there were trees in the distance, which I can then put. This is where you start. See, when it's wet and wet, you can do all kinds of stuff. Because the medium will take the paint off the brush, and it'll be really soft and beautiful and mysterious. And then you can mix into things underneath. And this is the way my teacher taught me how to paint. I didn't figure this out myself.
Which one? Which teacher?
I studied in New York City for many years at the Art Students League, and studied under Frank Mason, who's a great painter. He's no longer with us, but he was one of the last painters to be in a line of master-pupil relationships that go all the way back to the 1800s in Paris, in the Académie Julienne, and so he learned his how to paint from Vincent Dumont, who was an American impressionist and great teacher of many of the painters who came out west. So I think it, you know, and what did I learn? Well, I learned basically from working from the model, and we learned about gesture, proportion, and drawing. Because drawing and painting, to me, are very closely related. I'm drawing with a paintbrush. There's gesture, there's proportion, there's perspective, and you could get that all from working from the model, and that's what we did. We worked from the model for year after year. We'd have models posing, and I would work and toil, and I was poor, so I didn't have anybody paying my way, so I had to figure out how to survive in New York and find a place to live. And my friend Christian, who's been helping me, he's a promising student. He's going to go to the Art Students League this summer, and he's going to see what it's about. And it was a great, wonderful school. Now I'm going to start throwing in some of my darker clouds, which I want to throw in, because I want this feeling of mystery. So I'm going to throw some of the clouds. Some of the clouds are in shadow, and in the background some of them are in light. So there's this wonderful feeling of some of the anticipation of the storm, which is what I think is the most exciting time, either the storm or the anticipation of the storm. Now, I don't paint to sell paintings. I sell paintings, I make a living, but I do what I want to do. That's the most important thing. And I've been able to do what I want to do and paint the way I want to paint. Sometimes it's a struggle, and other times it's, I make sales and stuff. So the trick is that I try to find out who I am as a painter, and I'm not interested in following what's trendy, and because it's about being free, I think. So here we go. We got some of the basic ideas. So I like this feeling, the backflow of the storm. They sometimes they gather in the lee of the mountain, and the wind is going in this way. So I want this kind of drama going on. And then some of the lighter clouds have a little bit of a shadow. And so you're just there refining your idea. And then, so I'm going to start now with the landscape down here. And foregrounds are always harder than backgrounds. And you can always tell how good an artist is by what he does in the foreground. And I don't really know why that is, except foregrounds, you can't waffle as much. You have to sort of compose something. You have to make a statement. And you have to be, and one of the reasons why we do a lot of still life at the school is because a foreground is a still life. You set up a still life, and even if you're outside, you have so much stuff to paint. You still you have to take some of it and make a composition. You can't take it all. You can't paint it all, unfortunately. So I'm just sort of getting the idea that I want of this rock structure. Okay, and then there's some of the rocks demand a certain attention. Some of the rocks they have an anatomy too. It's funny to think that a rock has anatomy, but it does happen. They have planes, and they have a kind of a structure that and then they have underplane going in here, and then they've got some deep cracks and chips and divots. things I learned from Liz. It's all good, that's what she says. That's great. I embrace it. Okay, so now we've got sort of the idea of the rocks here, and now I get to do what I love to do, and that's be just wild with the foliage. All that drawing of the trees and stuff, where does it all lead? Well, you want to be able to be free and do something fun. So at Lake Elizabeth, there was a mixture of cottonwoods and spruce. At least in my head there was. It could be totally wrong, but that's my memory of it. And so I'm going to put, what's going to happen is the light's going to be coming through the trees here, sunlight. So there's going to be, what I want is some like twisted cottonwood sort of just blowing in the wind or just whatever right here. And then I want to contrast that with and then I want another, I always like to have cottonwoods coming out of the rock. So that's so cool. So I'll have the cottonwood here, and then I want to have those great spruces right here, and I love the way they're topsy-turvy. And I don't care, that some of them are dying and some of them are dead. All of them should be in the painting, I think. The whole life cycle of the tree should be in the painting. And so if it's beetle killed and all that, you're telling the story when you paint it. Because that's the cycle of the tree. It's not easy to retreat. And then I like, there was certain lacy trees coming in, like that, and then there was the red ones that were dying. And that's always fun to throw in a few of those. There was a few little ones growing up on this rock. And then there was a bunch of all of these wonderful bushes that would grow, catch the sunlight. They were mountain maples, whatchamacallits, all the bushes. You have the park, you have what's that thing called? Help me out here. What do you have? You have those mountain ash and alders. What's that one with the pink flowers, the bush?
Spirea.
Spirea, that's it. I love spirea, but it's too far away against the spirea. But the spirea is excellent. So you can sort of get some of this feeling of the light coming through the tree behind. And I love trees. To me, trees are as exciting as the great whales. I don't, bother going on a whale watching tour because, I've been on them, they're fun, but trees are just as exciting. And I look at them, and they're huge living organisms, and we just take them for granted because they're all over the place. And, as an artist, that's what I'm about, the trees.
So Nick, when you're
Yeah.
getting the light behind the trees, you do that pretty much after you get the structural part of it,
Yeah.
the dark ones?
Yeah.
Is that what you usually do?
Yes, and in fact, I make a tree kind of the way it makes itself in nature, which is start with the branches and then the trees. Or maybe it's in the spring, where you start out with the naked branches from winter, and then you gradually clothe them with the, with the beautiful leaves and stuff, and that's a good way to study trees. Now I have, I go for detail, but the detail is never at the expense of everything else. So I have my razor sharp Kolinsky sable, not very well treated, but I'm going to use it to start getting in some of the trunks. So with these trees, I love the way that they're just sort of, they try so hard to be sort of upright and dignified, but they often get knocked about by the weather. So I like to have the trees, the stems of the trees, they tell a story. And you know, really the trees, I've learned to do trees by looking at so many of the great tree painters out there. My teacher was a pretty good tree painter, but there were great ones out there. Mostly in the Hudson River School, I found, because they studied for nature and they were constantly, rigorously examining nature. And you know, I find, you know, a lot of people paint trees as an afterthought. They think of them as, you know, the way, remember, you ever have like those model train sets for your kids? The HO train set, and they put a green sponge on a plastic stick, and they call that a tree. And if you paint them that way, you're just missing something tremendous. And you know, and they're very hard. Trees are the hardest thing to paint.
You have any East Coast forests we can see?
You mean paintings of them?
Yes.
They're all, I haven't painted the East Coast scene in a while, but I'm going to go back there this summer. And you know, I love the trees over there. They're very different than the trees here. One of the interesting things about the trees over there is that in the summer, you really get a sense of the canopy. The canopy over there is very, very thick and dense. You don't get so much light filtering through as you do out here in these forests. And it's different types of trees. So I'm now going for the rhythm. There's this beautiful, I think cottonwoods are among my very favorite trees because they're not so, they're totally human in so many ways because they try to be noble in certain respect, but then they have catastrophes where the limbs are broken and they're growing in a cockeyed way because the wind is throwing them a certain way. So they really are, they're struggling just like all of us, you know, some way or another. So I find them endearing and they're a lot of fun to paint. And so here's another spruce, which is mostly just trunk, maybe dead, nice and thin. And see, I can just write on top of my painting because the medium's working for me. And that's important. So now, you know, the detail comes in, it's just a matter of refining everything. And once you have an idea, you know, you get the light effect on there.
Nick, would you want some more wine?
No, I'm fine.
Does anybody want a glass of wine? I can get you a glass of white or red. Oh, white. Okay.
See, I paint. I'm an adrenaline junkie when I paint. This idea of just being relaxed and painting because you feel relaxed, it just doesn't cut it with me. I've got to be absolutely neurotic, fired up, and it's all adrenaline and it's fun. I mean, I can't believe that some people go skiing when they could be painting. You know, it's the kind of thing that I'm always thinking. All right.
What medium are you using?
I'm using a combination of sun-thickened linseed oil and some turpentine, some of the old-fashioned turpentine, like the Gamsol or whatever. And I read this book about 19th century painting mediums in America, and talk about esoteric. But it's really funny how many. I had no idea what to expect when I read this book. Jennifer gave it to me for Christmas, and they talked about all the painters who had, were trying to experiment, and they were doing all these things because they all thought that whatever was going on in Europe was better than what they were doing. And so they would go to Europe and they would start concocting these unbelievably complicated, you know, things with like the ear of a newt and the, you know, nose of a jackass or something like that. And then they'd come home and they'd realize that, you know, all that stuff would start cracking and turn yellow. And it clearly wasn't what the masters were using, because the masters, the paintings weren't, you know, in a crappy state. So they just went right back to the old linseed oil, you know, either sun thickened or cooked, which is what Standard Oil is. And they, you know, in the end they would say simpler is better. And I think it's better that way. And there are commercial mediums, and I think it's good to use them, but I just prefer to make my own. And that way I know what's inside and I can modify it. Sometimes when it's really hot out, or when it's the temperatures are such that, you know, you feel like it's not working out, you can change it. Whereas I don't know what you do when you have liquid, you know, if it's not working out, because I don't know what's in liquid. And it's probably one of those things where if you find out, they have to kill you because it's a trade secret. Okay.
So when you go out, then you don't necessarily have a pre-mixture of sand oil and linseed, you
I
take
do.
them separately?
I do, I mix them together in this thing.
But if the temperature changes, you
Then,
said.
I do add, I usually do it before I go out. So if it's really cold, which we painted, it's really, really cold out, I find if you add some turpentine, it helps.
Okay.
And I'm sure you guys already know that. There's a group of painters here in this audience who are die-hard, and they go out and paint even in the winter. And I find it extremely inspiring, because it's sometimes very hard to think about going out. Well, let's see, I want my sunlight coming here, so I'm going to put this over here. So I'm going to have this idea of the sunlight coming down through the clouds from that point. And I always try to build a light effect in painting. And here's the smaller clouds, and they're catching the sun. And you know, you can throw in some paints in there. It's lower down toward the horizon. You can throw in some more paints. The air is a little bit more polluted, even out in the park. It's just natural. It's the moisture of the air. It's the dust. And the lower down the horizon, the more it changes the light to a pink color. So, so now, you know, I'm starting to think. Now, you know, finishing, all finishing is you get to this point, you can go home. The painting's already finished. And I mean, it's just a question of, you can do the rest out of your head, because it becomes then an edge problem with the various things that either has to be hard or soft edges, depending on where it is in the painting. And but you have your overall effect is already, you know, stated. So, and then you could, you know, start for the reflections. Let's see what else is on here. Is my hour up?
First, 35 minutes.
35 minutes. That's a record. Too bad the Guinness people aren't here. Guinness, well, the beer people too. Love Guinness.
We might have some beer downstairs.
Is it Guinness though?
No, it's not Guinness, it's Kirkland's signature.
Everything is Costco. Everything. There's going to be nothing else. I love that. It's great. I wish I was that successful.
Oh, we have sake from the Japanese.
Oh, really? No, that's good. I like
That's the
sake.
sake. You have to drink it.
Oh, no, really.
Yeah.
I love it.
Sake's good.
It was the first alcohol that I was allowed to try when I was a kid.
Really?
I was a teenager.
Why was that?
I don't know. My father thought that
Pretty
he would
strong
like to
stuff.
have a little sake after work, and he would finally, when I was 16 or 17, he said, "Oh, you can have a little with me," and it was all right, and I never went overboard.
You probably thought if you tried that, you'd never drink again.
Well, you know, it has to be warm. There's no question about it. It's to me, and I've actually, you know, to make it even weirder, I've actually cultivated a taste for warm beer, and I really like warm beer. I prefer it warm over cold.
Nice Guinness.
Yeah, everything, even the Kirkland. And the reason is I start out being lazy because I have to remember to put the beer in the fridge, and then I just sort of decided, well, it's not that bad, and then I actually prefer it. Okay. All right, so you can see how I'm thinking about things, and you can see how I'm able to do this kind of work, you know, in 2 hours out in the field, and with, you know, a little finishing up in the studio, and my, you know, I mean, you do all that studying, and what's the use if you can't just go and run with it, you know, and that's the whole point of doing all that drawing from the masters, is that you can, I mean, this is, you know, they weren't filling in colored drawings, they were all working just like this, you know, and I think and they're very spontaneous. Even Rembrandt, you know, you wouldn't think so. He must have sat there and was extremely, you know, it took a long time. No, he painted so many paintings, it just couldn't happen like that. So anyway, it's my theory in any case.
Did the 3 samples that you have up here start out as free form as you're doing it now?
Yeah.
And then you just add?
I moved stuff around, you know, and in this scene here, I wanted to, it was a long canvas, so I made this bigger, and I pushed this, I brought a barn that was over there, and I put here. You know, a lot of people, they take a little slide jacket and go up to the landscape, and my problem with that is like, well, what if there's something just outside that slide jacket that you want to paint, and then you move the slide jacket over, and then you're missing what you want to paint over here. Hi, Christian, how you doing? And so I said, to heck with that. Just put everything you want to paint in your painting and see if it works. And what's the worst thing that can happen? You have too much stuff. I've got walls and walls of panels in which I screwed up here. I put too much. I've lost track of the main idea, or it didn't happen. And hi, Sarah. Where was I? So we should do some detail here. So that's my theory in any case. So the Hockaday Museum is a wonderful place. I've been lucky to be involved with it for many years, and it services such a huge area, and that's what's so exciting. Where I'm from on the East Coast, I could never get involved with a museum because it's just you have to buy your way onto the board because they only get people who have big contributions on the board, and they have a preconceived idea of what a museum should be and all this stuff. But to come here and to be involved with it and to watch it grow, it was very exciting. And to try to get an open mind about what other people were doing in the community. You know, I do suffer from having a closed mind, and one has to work with it one way or the other, you know. Sometimes, you know, I used to be very judgmental about certain people, and then I grow to really appreciate them because I get to work with an establishment that promotes all the local artists. And so I was just very honored to be involved, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm going to put this. So, you know, I just want this feeling that there's trees along here. And, you know, I can play, the medium is so juicy, it's so nice. I can brush out, brush in, and it's all, you know, just back and forth. It's so much fun. Maybe at the end of this, some of you can come up and, you know, paint on here. I don't care. You're just paint over it. It's like, you know, I want you to see and feel how wonderful this is. I did that with a school in Dayton. I told some of you, but I did a demo like this in front of the whole school, all the grades, and that was about maybe 100 students. And at the end, I let them all come up and pick up a brush and do something on my painting. I mean, they were all, you know, they weren't just going like this crazy. They were careful, and I didn't have to worry that they would just vandalize anything. And you know, they were all respectful, and some of them may never again touch oil paint, you know, and some may have seen it for the first time and remember that. Who knows? But you know, education is a thing that one should be involved in. So that there was a little part where Mount Wilbur stuck its head out behind the wall over here, and so it was very exciting to see Mount Wilbur up there from that angle. So how many of you have been hiking in this area? It was Lake Elizabeth. Horseback riding.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have, years ago though.
Where is it? Yeah, where is it?
The Belly River is,
Yeah.
you go between what? East Glacier and, you better describe.
It's
Yeah,
at the Canadian border just about, and you go in along a long valley, and then the valley has two heads to it, and they're both, one's Lake, oh God, I can't believe I forgot. Lake
Costly?
Cosley, yes.
Mm.
And I stayed there with my friend who's helping me on the trip, Jim Watson, and he had some mules, and he brought my stuff in, and I walked, and he set up camp for me, and then I went hiked from there over to Elizabeth Lake, and I brought all my paints and painted there. I painted the Dawn Mist Falls, which is just really one of the most beautiful waterfalls. Of course, you know, everything is the most beautiful because it's off the beaten track,
Yeah.
because you have to get there. So part of that is the beauty of being, you know, really rewarding yourself by seeing something that few people see. And that's what inspired me to do the show in the first place, is to share with people these great places that most of us don't get to see a lot. So,
Is this Lake Elizabeth?
yes.
Yeah. I can't remember the names of the lakes.
Why did you start out with that orange base?
The orange tone on the canvas is just because I don't like working on white, directly white, because there's just nothing going on there. And if there's orange, it's already, I can play with it. There's orange peeking out of all of this. And it creates and it's Venetian red, actually, specifically. And it creates this kind of, impressionistic effect, which I like.
So you use mix it with, then it was medium and spread it all over?
No, that was Rabbitskin glue. I put it as my glue coat at the end of the process. And I make my panels the old-fashioned way, as Christian here can attest, because he's helped me. Christian's over there. And I've helped him, or I've told him about the way that I was taught, and that's the way that art was done, or panels were made, or canvases were made before acrylic gesso was discovered. And I'm not pugning acrylic gesso. It's sometimes you need it. You need a quick fix. But this is really a better way to paint.
So is that rabbitskin glue you're using there, did you say?
Yeah, rabbitskin glue with
What would you use to put that same color over gesso?
yeah, that's what I was, a thin glue coat over the gesso. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I find it's the best way. It just feels so nice because when you use oil paint, there's the rule fat over lean. I don't know how many of you heard that. There you go. One of the biggest problems with the commercial oil primers, I mean, in the old days they used to prime with oil paint instead of gesso or rabbitskin glue. But the gesso or the oil priming they used was lead white. And lead is the leanest color there is. So when you started painting on a painting, you were painting fat over lean because everything was fat, and fat means more oil and less oil is lean. So because the colors are mixed with different amounts of linseed oil, they behave differently. So then they got, because lead is so dangerous, they started priming things with titanium. And titanium white is much more fat. So you don't get the true feeling. So then the acrylic, the gesso I use, which is the old-fashioned gesso, is really kind of nice.
Is that gills you're talking about?
Yeah. I use the kills in emergency. It's, you go out and you buy a little bit of gesso and it's $36 or whatever, and you're afraid to spill it and you're afraid to brush it on a canvas. Well, you buy a gallon of kills. It's pretty much the same thing, I swear. It's acrylic polymer as the binder, and it's titanium powder for the pigment. And that's all gesso is, acrylic gesso at least. So, you can, see, poverty is not an excuse not to paint. I'm going through a lean period, as probably some of you are also, and various, just the way the world is. And so I've taken using drop cloths as canvas. And go to the store, you buy a drop cloth, and I put the old-fashioned gesso on it, and it's just as good as canvas.
I hate to say it, but.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I'm going to leave a Walmart canvas, it's like $2.
Oh, I didn't know they were having it there.
No,
Well, you go in there in disguise, and none of your friends will know that you're there. Well, what I always like to say about Walmart is that, there are all these people that they would never go into Walmart, but they tell you all about their trip to China. So I asked them, did you get any souvenirs? And they're like, oh yeah, I got a whole bunch of souvenirs. Well, that's the same thing, isn't it? Go to Walmart, get stuff from China. So this is my, souvenir from China.
You ever use Marochet for a minion?
Oh, well, there's a whole enormous story behind that. And poor Jenny, she probably has to hear the story, but my teacher was a proponent of Marochet for many years. And he knew Jacques Marochet, they were friends. And Jacques Marochet was the curator of paintings at the Louvre in France. And at a certain point, Jacques Marochet had tinkered with various concoctions, came upon this miraculous seeming thing, and I've made it myself. You take black oil, which is oil that you heat to 400 degrees, which is very dangerous, and then you heat it, you cook it with litharge, which is sugar of lead, and then you add at the end 1:1 black oil to mastic, and then it forms an instantaneous gel. And the chemistry behind that, I have no idea why, but that was a eureka moment, and Jacques Maragé started basically telling the world that he found the medium of Rubens, and somehow everybody wanted to get a piece of it. So when I started going painting here at Students League, David Lefel was using it, and my teacher had, I think, just decided not to use it. I'm not sure at that point. But there was a whole industry. Students would make the Maragé and sell it to other students. And but then my teacher found out, and others who had used it found out, that it starts to, it never dries properly, and it also turns yellow. And not only that, but if you use a lot of it, which people tend to do, it slowly migrates down the painting like old glass does in buildings. So, you know, a great painter by the name of Ode Nerdrum, who heavily used Maragé, got himself in a terrible situation because he started, his patrons started calling him up and saying, you know, my painting is starting to, the portraits or the figures he would do, or the heads, you know, they're a little cockeyed. And so, you know, they'd call him up, and the poor guy, you know, he wanted to really help them. So what he did was he created a fund to, he took some of his income and made a fund to help pay for the restoration of these paintings. Well, the government in Norway, is it Norway?
Yes.
Yeah, the government of Norway decided that he was a tax scofflaw because he didn't do the right thing, and they actually arrested him and threw him in jail. And so he's either in jail or he's just out of jail, but he's, you know, he's a very important figurative painter, and they were just so happy to make an example out of him because he was good. And you see, people don't like people with talent. It's just natural. And so, especially realists, because realists are still not in favor by the effete establishment. So they would rather see us just die and disappear, because they've already written us out in the history books, right? And so that's what they, but it won't happen, because everybody, I mean, people still love the sunrise, people still love clouds, and you know, abstract art only goes so far, and all great realism has abstraction underneath it, right? The way I started this was as abstract, as proportion, harmony, you know, the composition, the spiral, all of that stuff is working in here. And so now, you know, to make a long story short, as they say, I'm just going to, you know, reinforce some of the ideas that I have developing here, and, you know, put some light on the trees, put some light on the rocks, and go from there. So Maragé is a sad chapter, and there, you know, I don't know, nobody knows what the masters used. Some of the great masters like Rubens and others, they, you know, they take chemistry, they blow them up, they irradiate them, and you know, some of it depends on how they use it. I mean, you could take the same technique in a whole bunch of different artists' hands, and you'll get so many different results. And a restorer, or not a restorer, but an art historian won't see that, or a dealer. They just like to see things cut and dry their way. So I'm just smoothing in some of this stuff. So you know, this is the beauty of this. You can take a house painting brush. These are my most valuable brushes. They're house painting brushes. And just, you know, soften up some of the transitions. So it isn't just, and not everything has to be just slam bam impasto and sometimes it's better if you just build up to it. Well, any questions so far? Any more?
With your house painting brushes, are you
Yeah.
picking the ones that are natural boar bristle or natural bristle? Are you picking nylon bristle, or what are you looking for in the house painting brush?
I haven't paid too much attention to it. Sometimes I pick up one, think it's natural, and turns out to be artificial nylon, and then they curl after you use them a lot. They go in this weird little curl type of thing. But so you work with that. You figure out a way to make it work. And I don't remember anymore. But and then each paintbrush goes through a life of its own. I mean, this one started out, believe it or not, similar to this. But because I improperly cleaned it for so many years, or actually 2 years, and I would clean it, but then there'd always be some gunk in there. And it's a wonderful brush. And this one is sort of, I'm not so sure about. But they all go through these phases where we're either in the ins or the outs, depending on whether they
Did you
choose
have
it or
this
not.
painting visualized in thirds the way it is when you started?
Sort of, I guess,
It just turned out that way?
Yeah. I mean, I just, but composition is important, I mean, thirds, I'm not sure it's thirds per se. Do you mean like for here? Yeah, here it's kind of a third. But here it isn't, but what I'm more interested in is this feeling here, this backflow right here, the wall being broken up. See, I can't stand people who paint just a wall and there's no relief. Like those paintings of Iceberg Lake, and you see the icebergs, and then you see just this black behind. And it's, to me, it's like claustrophobia. It's like someone throws me in a coffin and closes the lid. I need to see a place, an escape for my eye. And so I like when there's a wall like this, I find a way to break it up. Even if there aren't clouds like this, I will throw some in there just because that's what I want, And so, does that answer your question?
Yeah. I guess you don't consider it really important that it's...
I try to do different things as often as I can, because I'm aware that, like anybody else, I can fall into a rut, and I do fall into ruts, and I have to pull myself out, because I don't want to do a painting and be on autopilot. I want to just try to do it special to that particular occasion and that particular feeling I have. So if I'm painting on autopilot, then I'm just painting the same painting over and over again. And that's a deal breaker for me. You gotta try to do something different each time. So I guess I'm nearing the end, aren't I? I mean, like, I can noodle and noodle. I mean, oh! Thanks for coming. Oh, Tony. And he's been with me at the school. He's done remarkably well. And it's a lot of fun having him teaching because, I learn from my students and we joke, we have a lot of fun. And painting is serious enough without, the world is a very serious place. And we get to take a little time away from the world in our class and think about these timeless things that are so great. Art. So I threw in some more cracks and finishing up. And of course, I would finish this up at home and it would take hours, maybe about 3 or 4 hours to finish up all the branches here. But I know cottonwoods, I know, what they should be doing, and, it's always trying to get that, I love the way they just sort of flop around, and the the leaves, the branches, they have this sort of careless fashion, which I really enjoy. So I'm just throwing in the bottom stuff, the trunk from this thing. You know, I love, again, always the accidents where the trees crash into each other, they fall over, the wind is throwing them around, and you know, they're really suffered out there. You can go home when the weather's bad, but they're out there all the time.
Nick, are you sure you don't want any wine for the finale?
What's the finale? You can have like
Will you proclaim?
Russian dancers or something? That'd be great.
It'll be just 5 snowflakes on this one.
Sorry?
5 snowflakes at this one.
Oh, okay.
Did you grow up in Minnesota?
I grew up on Long Island, and everybody thinks, you know, haha, Long Island, it's a suburb, but don't forget, the world's greatest cowboy came from Long Island. It was Teddy Roosevelt. And his ranch is still out there. It's a national park. It's called the Second House Ranch. And I've gone and painted there. You know, I've managed to go back there. I have some galleries on the East Coast, and over the years, they've sort of done well for me, and they go through their cycles. And one I still have, I'm going to have a show out in Southampton this spring. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to paint those scenes which I grew up with, which I love. You know, it's very understated. I like love the marshes. I think the marshes are my absolute favorite.
Has it changed much in that area?
Oh yeah, of course. You know, it's but they on the North Shore they preserved a fair amount of it, and you know, in the old days they would just simply drain the swamp and build houses, but now, you know, a lot of that is still protected. So you know, a lot of times you're painting a view and you just take out the telephone pole, or you take out the big trophy home that's like, you know, and just put a tree there, and you're already in a timeless world, because that whole house will burn down, termites will eat it, the scene will still be there, you know, it's eternal. And a good painting will last over 500 years. And so if somebody thinks to hold on to this, or if a few of them survive the wars and the famines and whatever is coming, you know, this will be how people will look at what this time was.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of weird, but this will far surpass pixels, because that'll all just evaporate, right? They'll just, you know.
Yeah, and a great power outage of 2025.
A big sunspot activity, and all the pixels will be erased. It's all so crazy. You know, it's during all the ages, all painters had to deal with this kind of stuff: wars, famines. They all dealt with it. Some ignored it, and just they didn't see the death all around them. They painted beautiful paintings, and others plunged right in, like Goya. You know, you hear of Goya? He's a great painter, more a printmaker even, and really interesting how you take something like war and deal with it. It's extremely hard. Not many people have succeeded in depicting war without being overboard, and to find something about it that translates over the ages. Because nobody wants to look at something that's just so horrifying. Yet, if you get the horror in there somehow, you sneak it in, it's somehow even more powerful. And but most artists didn't want to deal with that. Who can blame them, you know, because the artists never started the wars. So maybe Adolf Hitler. It's a different story. They should have just let him in the art school. Stay forever. That's why my art school is open to everyone. Well, I think I've about pretty much whipped this dead horse. What do you think? Great.
Great.
Nick, I really
Yeah.
like the base color coming through in the bottom.
Yes.
On the edge, and I see some of it over here as well.
Uh-huh.
My question is, when you put a frame on that, is that gonna draw your eye to the edge of the canvas?
Oh, you mean I'm not leaving this on purpose? I'm gonna cover this up a little bit. You know, and you know, it's coming through. I don't mind where it comes through here. It looks kind of nice, but right here where it's nothing on there, I will cover that up. And sometimes, you know, I'm not sure what I'll do here. Maybe I'll put, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do there. But you know, this is what I want. This is the best part of doing a painting. Is the first part. The rest is just the rote of going back and going back and covering everything and sharpening edges and finishing and putting extra little doohickeys there here and there and deciding if you want to, you know, a lot of people, like especially throughout history, the great landscape painters were so happy to just paint a landscape, but if they had to sell a painting because they, you know, the patron wanted a little stag hunt or something, they'd put a little stag leaping in the water, but they just throw it, you know, over here or whatever, and they wouldn't let it distract from the whole landscape idea. And that's kind of where I'm at. If I were to put a little boat or a canoe or something, you know, it would be very small and understated and maybe just, you know, but that's who I am. It doesn't mean that that's the way it should be done. It's just the way I feel about it.
So Nick, could you scrutinize that and say, you say what you think it needs?
Well, it needs just a lot of little picking, finishing. But the idea is pretty much, I think, there, you know. And there's this time when I need to look at a painting for a long time and know what to do. Like, you know, what I like to do also, forgot this part, where you put in, you know, there's a point of the leaves where it reflects the sun and full force. And so you can get that in there, it's sparkle, you know. And sometimes you wait till that dries because the white is not easy anymore after a certain point to put in. But there's that point where you want to get that feeling of the light coming through the tree. And see, that kind of thing is you want, the whole idea is to have the sunlight spilling over the rock. And so you start going and finding those areas that would be really good to throw in the sunlight. And that's when you get the small brush. You know, you keep just playing that game back and forth.
So when do you decide that it's too much?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, sometimes you do have to, it depends on your style. You know, some people would say that this is all too much. And I grapple with that all the time. I'm not sure. Sometimes I try, you know, I push it a little bit, but you know, you're never really done with any of your work until you die, because you can always go back and rework it, because you're always learning, right? So it's never one of those things where you just sort of say, I'm done. Some painters like Velázquez had the fortune to have a patron their entire life, the King of Spain, and so he was able to rework his paintings, and so you don't see any bad Velázquez's out there, right? You don't see a student Velázquez. He reworked his paintings, and but other painters weren't so lucky, and you had some paintings that were maybe not as well, I won't say it's accomplished or anything like that, but you see like younger versions of it. You see an evolution, whereas he sort of covered his tracks. But it all depends on circumstances. So, you know, you can play around with that. I mean, there's so much that has to be done with this tree. So there's leaves that are going behind the main cluster. And then you can have the light spilling out over here and then sort of against the dark. You get some nice rich colors. You know, the painter Ferry, John Ferry, is a really good painter to study. I mean, I don't like his, the way he resolves things. That's a style thing. You know, he likes to keep things very simple, and I prefer to sort of give you your eye a little bit more. Maybe I give it too much. But he's fantastic for the kind of color relationships he comes up with, and harmonies are really fascinating. And you know, he studied art formally in Europe, and he certainly knew how to draw with paintbrush. So, you know, and you could just go on and on and on with this whole idea. So what time is it? Yeah.
5 o'clock.
Have to do another one?
Quarter to 7.
7. Good.
I'd also like to tell the group that Nick has got a piece of, in the Burns collection of one of his landscapes, which is just, around the corner, if you'd like to stop and visit with his painting, please do so.
Well, thank you. And it's an honor to be here. I've got some propaganda here from my school. Want to grab some? Or pass it around or whatever. There's some.
Yeah,
Yes.
what, after you're done with the meals packing you in,
Yeah.
you're just on your backpack, and you got several miles to go, what actually are you taking?
Well, I have a pallet box that I made that has a closable lid. And it's sort of like this, except a much smaller version. So I dole the paints out of the mother box, which is on the mule, and put it in there. And then I have my aluminum tripod easel, so I hang this there, and the lid forms a pallet. So then I can take a big painting, like a 16 by 20 painting, and which I did take out of the field. And then I also carried hand carried boxes with slats in them, so you can slide in the wet work that's in there. And I sort of had it so that I relayed them with the other boxes that have the dry stuff. And you know, it was logistically a little complicated, and I had some great helpers that came along with me. Bill Goodman was one of them, and you know, we had a great time. He helped me carry my stuff, and we camped out there, and it was a wonderful thing. And you know, I'm not really a camper type. I don't, you know, I'm a creature of the suburb. I don't hunt or do a lot of the backpacking stuff, and I don't really like to camp because the idea of sleeping in the dirt just drives me crazy. So, you know, I want to be away from the dirt. I don't want to be on the dirt. But I had to get over that, and they helped me with that. And so it was wonderful. It was a great experience.
No bear bites?
No, I didn't see too much of that, and I was so tired I couldn't even be afraid of bears anymore. I was so tired. You know. And one time we just slept out in the open, and it was like, you know, we couldn't even get our tents up.
You can just spray yourself with that bear spray.
Oh yeah. Well, but speaking of the bear spray, it was funny. On the way to Elizabeth Lake, you know, I was all alone, and for a long distance, I saw a black bear, and that was fun because I like them. They don't really hurt you or anything. And I was all, you know, I'm always a little apprehensive on that myself, and I'm going through these thimbleberry forests and stuff. And then around the corner comes a group of young men in their backpacks and everything, and the lead guy has the bear spray out. And it's so funny because it's like, I don't know, it's everybody has their own technique. I you know, rely on just being at the right place at the right time, hopefully.
How they choose the leader.
Yeah. So,
Okay, just like we noticed, there's a lot of painters here tonight. We'd like to remind you all that we've got the plein air paint out event coming up, and that's going to be June 18th through 20th. And we invite you to apply online to be juried in for that event. Applications are due by the end of March 29th.
March 29th.
It's a fun time
It is a-
You gave us too much time, I'm gonna forget. It's like, it's too
Keep
long.
reminding you.
You could call me the week it's due and say, you know, at the end of the week, get it in, and then I'll be on my mind.
If anybody would like to join our mailing list to be, if you're not receiving our weekly spam, our weekly email about everything going on, let us know here. Front desk will get you signed up.
I hope you're all members. This is what supports this. There's no secret grants from the NEA or anything that's supporting this thing. It's all members in the community. So, there's no excuse.
Well, thank you, Nick.
I will be looking over the name of non-members.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for-
All right, thank you again. Who wants to do my brushes?